Italy, middle of the last century. Sitio Paradiso is a 40-year-old prosperous farmer who is having fun on the plantation with the young and charming daughter of the mayor of the city. The man is married, so the couple hides their romance from others. Maria is forced to watch this calmly, protecting the love secret of her older sister Bianca. At some point, the girl reminds that her father is waiting for them and may begin to suspect something. Realizing that Maria is right, Bianca kisses Siccio passionately, says goodbye, and leaves. Meanwhile, Lucia returns to the house and notices that her son takes all sorts of nasty things in his mouth. Screaming at Rocco for this, the woman gives him the apple and sends him to his grandmother to help her bake bread. Old Ninette asks her daughter-in-law how late her son Siccio came home, but Lucia does not want to answer this question. In one of the olive fields, the mayor of Campascettino observes the work of the townspeople in the harvest. Soon his daughters arrive bringing food, and the man announces a break for lunch, and also releases a charming 15-year-old girl so that she can rest in the barn. Siccio returns home and meets a jealous lover along the way. She knows about his relationship with Bianca and is jealous of the young girl, as the farmer visits only her but forgot about other women. Hearing his son's voice, Siccio asks Linda to let go and hurries to Rocco to give a black goat. Upon returning home, a married farmer communicates with his mother, talking about how he would like to go to another country and start a new life. Ninette is outraged by her son's behavior and asks not to act like a womanizer because he has a wife and son who need his attention. No less, Siccio is outraged that his twin brother Antonio practically does not write to them, almost forgetting about his family. After lunch, Campa goes to the barn, where he meets a young and charming girl who he had previously let go from the plantation. He asks her to undress, but the beauty refuses, embarrassed by an adult man. Not accepting the refusal, the mayor throws the girl on a haystack and forces her to spread her legs. Campo possesses a young girl, causing her to scream in pain. Maria hears what her father is doing and frightenedly runs away so as not to see it again. In the evening, Siccio visits his mistress for a cup of coffee and learns about her husband's problems with the mayor. Going to a nearby tavern, the farmer watches how Don Luigi buys olive oil at a discounted price. At some point, Siccio is offended by this behavior of an impudent merchant because he practically robs other farmers, forcing them to vegetate in poverty. Siccio breaks Luigi's business and declares that he is ready to buy olive oil at a fair price and will have a monopoly in this area. While the farmers rejoice at this event, the fat man Luigi is forced to leave the tavern since he has nothing else to do here. During breakfast the next morning, Siccio confronts the family about Luigi and Campa's arrogance of preying on ordinary people. The man's father believes that this is none of his business and should not get involved in it, as they can pay too high a price. Immediately, Lucia asks her husband where he was last night, causing the couple to fight. Realizing that Ciccio continues to cheat, his wife kicks him out, sending him to his mistresses. After listening, the farmer meets with Bianca and brings a music player for a date. While listening to romantic French songs, the couple dances, kisses, and dreams of escaping to Paris and starting a new life. Don Luigi goes to the mayor and tells about the actions of Siccio and other farmers. Controlling the police, Campa demands to inform all the men that he is waiting for them at home in the evening. A little later, Siccio's best friend warns him about the dangers of having a relationship with the mayor's daughter, but he ignores it. In the evening, the farmer returns home and meets other landowners. They are in a panic, as they cannot defend their position in a conversation with the mayor, and ask Siccio to speak on their behalf. Having met with an overly honest and fair farmer, Campa asks him if he knows his daughter. Bianca is very nervous and hurries to be the first to answer that they have not met before. The mayor informs Siccio that he has known his family for a long time because the farmer's grandfather was his godfather. Campa also recalls the situation with Luigi and asks Siccio not to interfere with his activities. Not wanting to put up with injustice, the farmer refuses to obey the mayor and leaves. That same night, the farmer, who received too little money from Luigi, stops him on the road and beats him up. The next night, Siccio climbs into Bianca's window to lure the girl into the barn. Maria is sleeping, so the couple quietly escape and, enjoying the kisses, undress each other before falling into a haystack to make love. In the morning, Bianca boasts to Maria, reporting that she spent the night away from home. The younger sister is shocked by the girl's frankness. Soon, older brother Cosimo decides to go to the barn to feed the horses. Realizing that Siccio is still there, Maria hurries after him to rescue Bianca's lover. Gathering hay, Cosimo hears strange noises and believes they are rodents. Maria manages to send her brother back to the house, after which she finds the hiding farmer and allows him to escape through the window. Meanwhile, the mayor meets with the man who beat Luigi and pays him money so that he no longer objects to the fence and the current government. A few hours later, Siccio goes to the church, where he meets his wife and son. He convinces Lucia that he still loves her, but for him, betrayal is not a sin. A little later, Siccio and Bianca meet again to be together. The man reports that in 3 days the couple will leave the city forever and go to his brother Antonio. The girl does not believe that she will have a red dress and a ring, but the farmer shows her a letter that he was going to give to her father. Meanwhile, Cosimo and Campa find out that their Bianca was dating a married man. When the daughter returns home, the mayor exposes her deceit and Maria, who was covering for her sister. He is outraged that a liar and an easily accessible girl live in the house. Offended, Bianca undresses and embarrasses her father with her naked body. The girl reproaches him for the fact that the mayor is shy of his daughter, but looks with pleasure at the 15-year-old girls with whom he has fun in the barn. At night, Siccio says goodbye to the sleeping family and once again rereads the letter he is about to give to Bianca's father. In the morning, he goes to meet Campa, but it turns out that the mayor can't read. Instead, he takes the farmer aside and suggests checking the soil moisture. It turns out that this is a distraction, and Campa hits the man on the head with a glander, depriving him of his life. Deciding to make the crime exemplary, the mayor takes out a folding knife and, having cut off Siccio's manhood, shoves it into his mouth. A few hours later, relatives find Siccio's lifeless body in the middle of the city, lying on a horse. Everyone understands who did it, but no one will punish the mayor who is in power. Relatives and friends are grieving the loss, but Bianca suffers the most, ready to abandon her father. Soon Antonio, who works at a factory in another city, learns that his brother is gone. After meeting and discussing everything with the bride, the man packs his things to return home. Meanwhile, the police make nightly arrests, sending the farmers who collaborated with Siccio to jail. The next morning, Antonio arrives in his hometown to support his relatives and say goodbye to his brother. Left alone with the coffin, the man understands how unfair the world is and decides to restore justice, no matter what it costs him. Bianca runs away from home to say goodbye to Siccio. Cosimo tries to stop his sister, but she defends herself with a pitchfork and promises to cut open her brother's stomach if he follows her. Relatives and people close to Siccio gather in church to say goodbye to him. Bianca is afraid to approach the family of the deceased lover, so she watches from afar how his coffin is carried and cries bitterly. A little later, Antonio goes to the police station to find out how the case is progressing. It turns out that the officer is not local and is inactive, afraid of punishing the guilty. Leaving the site, Antonio meets one of the townspeople, who reported what atrocities are happening here. Vincenzo tells the brother of a deceased friend that many farmers have been arrested, leaving their families without a livelihood. Upon returning home, Antonio tries to find out more about what is happening in the city. The father knows the name of the criminal, but is inactive, believing that Ciccio got what he deserved. the head of the family asks his son to leave this city forever and never return, so as not to expose himself to unjustified risks. Not wanting to give up, Antonio goes to the mayor's house for a private conversation. Noticing a member of the Paradiso family, Cosimo hurriedly runs into the house and ties up Bianca so that his sister will not tell him anything. Having met Antonio at his doorstep, Cumpa does not hesitate to admit that he took the life of Ciccio. He is the mayor of this city and is sure that he will go unpunished. Moreover, if Antonio appears on his doorstep again, the man will not regret him either. Accepting his own impotence, the man says goodbye to his family and asks Vincenzo to take him to the evening bus. Leaving the boundaries of his native city, Antonio sees the image of little Ciccio and understands that he cannot leave without taking revenge on the offenders of his brother. The next morning, he returns to Cumpa's house and attacks him. After hitting the man several times, Antonio sends him to the next world. Soon Cosimo comes to the barn, and after several blows to the head, falls into eternal sleep after his father. A couple of hours later, in the central square where Ciccio's body was found, Cumpa's clothes are found. The relatives of the deceased rejoice at this, trampling on the clothes of the mayor of the city and spitting on it before the police arrive. A little later, Maria goes to the barn, where she finds the bodies of her brother and father. The girl screams in horror and awakens the sleeping Bianca. Rushing to her sister, she notices Cumpa and Cosimo, realizing who exactly took their lives. Time passes and the attitude of the inhabitants of the city to the family of the late mayor changes dramatically. Maria and Bianca become real outcasts, from which everyone turns away. The baker is no exception and refuses to sell flour to the sisters, pretending to run out of flour. As soon as the man moves away from the counter, Bianca steals several loaves of bread in order to somehow prolong her existence. Continuing to fight for themselves, the sisters try to challenge the attitude of people in the police and the church, but no one wants to help them. Having lost hope, Bianca goes to Luigi and asks for money or people who can take care of their fields. A wealthy speculator is ready to help the unfortunate girl because he likes her, but in return she must satisfy him. As soon as the man unzips his fly to get a thank you, Bianca plunges a fork into Luigi's leg and runs away because she is not an easy girl. While working at a factory, Antonio helps a colleague, but by an absurd accident injures him. Seeing a pool of blood on the ground, the man freezes in place and realizes that this life is not for him. Meanwhile, Bianca sees the image of the deceased Ciccio and hurries to the tree near which they met. She remembers being bitten by a snake, and the farmer offered to suck the poison out of the wound. As soon as everyone turned away, Ciccio kissed her since the snake was not poisonous. Antonio meets with the bride and learns that her father has decided to give them an apartment. He is not ready for marriage and meets with the factory owner to discuss it. A little later, Antonio writes a letter to Bianca, but she, without reading it, hides it in the nightstand. The next morning, the man finally decides to live the life of Ciccio's late brother. After writing a farewell letter to his fiancée, he returns home and meets with his parents. Later, Antonio goes to Bianca's house to meet her. Noticing a photo of the sister's mother on the table, the man frightenedly leaves the house without talking to the girl. In the field, Antonio finds his father and learns from him that Maria is his daughter, and her mother's photo for many years he kept in his wallet. Bianca decides to read the letter and finds out that the man has something important to tell her. Hurrying to the square, she meets Antonio, who has shaved off his mustache to be a carbon copy of Ciccio. He invites Bianca to become his wife and asks her to close her eyes. A moment later, the girl is in a red dress showered with rose petals. Soon, the inhabitants of the city gather in the square and Antonio's father takes Bianca to the church for their marriage.